You are listening now to the Spirituality Now podcast, the show that is solely focused on practical spirituality, leadership, and mindset skills with the aim and purpose of supporting you master your life. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor. And I'm going to start with this before introducing you to my guest. You know, today you always listen to the podcast. Weeks later, we produce and talk to wonderful people. And then we plan them for a month or so in advance, all of that. But today has been a very interesting day for us as a team and for me because we've been censored. So it's like in my human list of like, have you have experience of heartbreak? Yes. Have you had an experience of helping others? Yes. Have you had an experience of being censored by social media channels? Yes, in a way that we've never been censored. So I'm just going to tell you that these things are real, that the situations in the world, whoever is, a proponent of good things that can help humanity evolve and gets organized. I've been so adamant to share, and I'm going to do a solo podcast about this. I did a post about organized crime versus organized light. And no matter how much we complain about people in crime, about people in darkness or evil, there's a reason why they are called organized. And I just wonder if all of us that were like meditators and have these technologies of consciousness and talk about divine mother, divine father, and we talk about Zen and meditation, if we all will gather organized instead of being after each other with like, your frequency is low, mine is higher, all that stuff. I think we will go into this quest. I feel what is going on in the planet right now is more like a quest. I don't feel it like it's, I could use the word war, invisible wars of invisible fields, all that stuff, but this is an ongoing thing that has happened in humanity for eons. And I truly believe that if we take what is unfolding in the humanity we're living right now as a quest, as a child, I love the game called Dungeons and Dragons and Tron. Why I love Tron, I have no idea. But I also love the questing, like kind of spirit, like the Jedi spirit, all of that. And I really feel that we gotta get organized. So I'm checking in today, with an incredible friend, beautiful soul that I'm going to introduce you right now. With all of this energetic movement, it's just movement. These contractions leading to expansions, and just wanted to check in. Anywho's enough of me and my self-therapy on the podcast. So I want to introduce you to an incredible soul, incredible teacher. I just get to know her a little bit more today, and she speaks like 10,000 languages. No, like 5. But I never knew. I always thought she was American that lived in Mexico. Look at the stories that we make. And she's from Switzerland, or well, we'll let her tell you because I'm excited to have her. Well, so today we have our incredible Bella Krystal here. Bella weaves many paths into one, threading embodiment practices, tantra, and shamanism into everything she does. Her background is an entrepreneur. Is on entrepreneurship and business with an MBA from the Anderson School of Management in UCLA. She has lived in 7 countries. Speaks 6 languages. Here it is, which makes her a powerful bridge between cultures and people. You bet. I can barely make it with English and Spanish. Imagine her with 6. Like, this is what we need right now. 2 of her work tools, which I believe are tools for consciousness, are the Gene Keys and Human Design. And just for framework, we introduced our very first podcast. Number 1 was with the founder and creator of the Gene Keys, Richard Roth. You can give it a listen. It was when we were branded as Sovereign Futures, and we did it in English and Spanish. He was such a trooper. I was so nervous, but he was here. So Gene Keys and Human Design, astrology-based systems that reveal the gifts and challenges encoded in our DNA, and empower us to transmute shadow patterns into gold. Love that. Alchemy kind of thing. Understanding our unique design, we start living to the fullest, aligned and coherent with our soul and genetic blueprint, serving the whole through our creative expression. And then I love this that Bella said, and it's in her bios. She says that enlightenment isn't about transcending the physical body, it's about grounding in our physicality and opening the heart. We allow the life force to move through us with its extraordinary power to unlock unprecedented levels of aliveness, divine trust, and intimacy. Bella is also the co-founder of Unlock Your Design, an online academy where human design, gene keys, and astrology are taught as tools for self-awareness and empowerment. And the mission of the academy is to guide and inspire people to embody their truth and sovereignty. And we will make sure to put all the links, all the contacts of Bella. My beloved Bella, amiga, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Oh, you are so sweet. You are like, thank you. You look so beautiful, by the way. Those of you who follow us and listen to our podcast on YouTube, go give it a listen and watch and subscribe there. It's all free. So you can meet Bella because, she's a treat for the soul and for the eyes. So, sweet Bella, so welcome to the show. And I'm so excited to have you. We've been after like kind of wanting to connect. We were talking behind the scenes today that we feel a connection. I join you in that just transcends the typical like social media connection, like let's do something together connection. It's like I was telling to Bella, it's like fate. Fate, Fate. It's like a good karma. It's like a knowingness of the soul. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, beloved Bella. So Bella, just to start, and probably you've been asked this thousands of times, you can adapt it in the way that is more fun and joyful for you and also for the benefit of people. Tell us a little bit about the background of Bella. I mean, all that you've created is so powerful and so conscious and purposefully driven, oriented. But how did you get here? So briefly share a little bit of your background and who was Bella growing up, and how did Bella arrive to this land of the mystic?
Well, I think I always did things my way, and that's what continued. And then I had also in my life this feeling that I had to check off some things of like university and the things that I was looking on the outside. This is what I'm supposed to do. If I'm able to do it, I have to do it. So I think I went through phases of that until 10 years ago. Things kind of fell apart because I think I was still more looking on the outside. And I had that kind of Saturn return, dark night of the soul, really, really difficult. And my way back from that, I discovered those systems that also helped me to put myself in alignment more with truth. And after that, it's more and more every day. I just wake up and I want to be in coherence. What I feel, what I say, what like everything be together instead of me being pulled in all these different directions and the emotions and the mind and the body kind of pulling you in different directions.
Wow, you're so focused and precise. And I'm gonna, I'm a believer that those dark nights of the soul are very equivalent to the womb. I've been serving my community for years. So I was going to say thousands of years. I mean, the soul will declare the truth without you knowing. Apparently, thousands of years, but in this lifetime, a couple of years, like 20 something years in rebirthing. And it reminds me what you are sharing about a womb, about the contractions that lead to expansions. Share a little bit about that dark night of the soul, because that's what helps people relate first. Like we're starting with the dark night of the soul that leads to you finding tools that help us. I love how you said it, like to help you, instead of being distracted by all these voices, all these things, it helped you regroup, like be more integrated and embodied as you shared. But tell us a little bit about, if you want, about those dark nights of the soul, because I think that's the most real aspect that helps people with.
Yeah, I think I'm a warrior, and it has to get really, really bad sometimes before I listen. Because if I feel like I'm going in a direction and I have something to go towards or fight for, I usually will go to the last drop of blood. And I don't think that comes from only now. I think that's my makeup. And I feel like what had to happen was that I had to completely be cut down, we could say. And it felt for me like being tucked to the floor, quite literally, and being pulled to the underworld, and to have to listen to these demons that of course is the inner demons, but they also kind of show you themselves on the outside. And it was definitely something that had to do with self-worth, because when you are focused on the outside and how to have people value you on the outside, but you're not doing it on the inside, it has to crumble at some point. And for me, I believe that it had to go quite far in order to crumble. So the period for me was about 8 months or almost up to a year when I definitely couldn't function. And it was very hard for somebody that's usually very able to do so many things. And suddenly I wasn't even able to have a life that was normal, like even eat properly or go to the supermarket or go to an appointment at 3 o'clock, much less work or do anything constructive in my life. And I remember speaking to God every single day: God, if this is life, it's not worth it. And at the same time, somebody like me that has a lot of reverence for being here, being in a body, being in this life. And I think that there is a reason and a purpose. And right there and then, I didn't understand what it was. And it also felt like failures. I think astrologically, that was something that's in my chart and that I had to work with. Because what is failure? I was telling myself that story in my mind, that everything I did in these 10 years from I was 19 or 20 hadn't served for anything. I was like, I lived in all these countries, I learned all these languages, I have these certifications, and where did I end up? I'm back in Sweden, sitting on a floor, feeling like a scared animal with a knife against my throat. That's how I was feeling. And I feel like nothing that I did took me anywhere. I'm kind of back, but back in a state where I don't even feel human. I feel like my nervous system, my being, my soul, everything is just screaming. So, what am I supposed to do, God? What is this? And really, my mom actually throw me out of her house. I'm an only child. And a couple of several months before, she had told me, you have to leave my house. I cannot see my only child die in front of my eyes. And I had somebody, a landlord who was not completely okay in his head, come pick me up from the city where my mom lived. And she saw me drive away. And I think for me as well, so this is a bit more of my story, I think that was a kind of liberation. My mom has multiple sclerosis, and for my whole life, I had been going back to take care of her. And even if I went to France to live, even if I went to Italy, even if I was in the States for my studies, I would always come back. And many times I would stay longer and I would change my flight and I would stay, and it would be so hard to leave. And I thought as a child, as an only child, because I didn't have other sister and brothers to speak with, that that's what I had to do. So in some way, in that letting go or cutting off, she also gave me the insight that I had a right to decide for my life. And if I wanted to decide for me and wanted to leave and not felt I didn't have to take responsibility for her life. No human being has to take responsibility for another life. And I think that for human beings is hard to understand sometimes when it comes to kids when they are over 18, or parents, or like we have that kind of attachment and sometimes entanglement, and that can also be an excuse to not completely live our own life. So for me, in hindsight, of course, everything that happened is part of what you're saying. Reclaiming those tools and realizing our freedom, our sovereignty, what's needed for liberation, that we can't use other people like our family to say, this is why I'm here still, I have to wait until they die or they grow up or this and that. No, there's no excuse. And when things go that bad, it's almost also that you kind of get a courage that every day you want to live and nothing can get worse than what it was. So it's also like a spark or some kind of new adventure that it allows you to go on once you're able to get out, because it's actually very physical. It felt for me that it was my emotional world, my physical world, my mental world, like all these things at the same time were crumbling. So of course, to get up of that is also a process. It's not, for me, actually, it was kind of a snap of fingers. I can speak about that too. But when you're in it, it doesn't feel like you're going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly everything has fallen into place. We are a living process. Evolution never ends. And that's why I'll come back to earth again. I don't think that I'm the one to say if I should come back or not. I think that the creator knows if I'm needed here or not.
Wow, Bella, just that. I have so many notes, but this was great. Great sharing with great storytelling too, weaving in the facts. A couple of highlights on that, just for you to know. My mom also had multiple sclerosis. She died from it, so it's. I understand you perfectly, because what a challenging test, and let's call it like that. What a challenging test. What a fate, and what a karmic redirection. And so it's quite liberating also to hear you say, like, the gift that your mother gave you. Even though the landlord, the gift your mother gave you, imagine the capacity of love of someone with that circumstance to say, go and be free. Go and save your life. I mean, for me, that blows my mind. So I wanna acknowledge that part, because it's very much in my bones too. The number two is that you keep saying it, and I saw it in the bio too, that it happened in your body. The crumbling mentally, physically, emotionally, that is so powerful, because some of us in the quote quote niche of spirituality, what is one of the biggest claims in the Abrahamic traditions, you are not the body. Oh, no, the blessed Lord, I am the body, or whatever this I is, it is in the body that I'm experiencing suffering, pain, joy, love making, tantra, whatever it is. And I was telling you behind the scenes, we are about to open this reading circle for a book, just a book. It's about Zen. It's called The Rinzai Zen Way, A Guide to Practice by Maido Moore, or the Abbot. I'm Spanglishing, the abbot of the Korinji monastery. I've never encountered something so clean, clear. But one of the main premises of the practice of Zen is that Zen happens through the body. But I mean, and all that you were sharing is like, Zen happens through the body. I'm like, Zen happens through the body. It's through the body that you experience. You even have experience and life based through the body, not like not having a body. So I love that. And I love your enthusiasm. I also love your questing spirit, Bella. I'm all in, like, with you. I could understand why you were like, I needed the last drop of blood, before. I'm like, is it wrong that I'm actually excited for that? I'm like, I am totally there. I'm like, it seems right to me that you and I like had to connect, because I'm like, I was like, oh, SHIT. I'm like that. I'm like, last drop of blood, like, let it all crumble, and then from the ashes the phoenix will rise. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do some more inner work after this. But beloved Bella, okay, let's start with. I prepared some questions. That was great, by the way. I think you have so much organic fire. I don't know I'm not an astrologer. I'm not like a feng shuier or anything like that. But I feel the chi. I feel the ki. I feel the magnetic pull, the energetic something. Just wanted to acknowledge that. Anyways, so you have a unique ability, beloved Bella, to blend different paths into one, such as tantra, shamanism, embodiment practices. How does this integration shape your approach to helping people unlock their potential? And let me know if you need me to ask the question again.
Now, the word that is important for me with all this is aliveness. That is the integration of all this. Because when we are starting to feel alive, that is when the energy can flow. And that's really where all these paths meet as well. And it's about awareness and embodiment. And these different things that you were mentioning, they allow us to expand our awareness and our embodiment. And for me, that is the sacred union. For me, the awareness is very much like the Shiva, like the masculine presence, like the straight spine, like the meditation. And then when it comes to embodiment, it's the Shakti, it's the feminine, it's the feeling sense, it's the ecstasy, and sometimes the excruciating pain. So for me to be able to bring the awareness and the embodiment together, that's where we start to feel true aliveness. And also, that's how we are able to unlock, because when we are numbed down and distracted and not home, and like I was saying before, when the different parts of us are pulling in different directions, then there is no aliveness, there is fragmentation, incoherence. So that's the opposite for me to aliveness. And I think that anybody, you don't have to know any systems, you don't have to be a certain age or a certain intelligence, even a child can feel into what aliveness is. And that's why I like that word, because anybody wants to feel alive, nobody wants to feel dead, right? That I think it's such a simple way of seeing, why are we here? We're here to be alive. When we are alive, we're unique. We don't think about what we are ashamed of, about our accent, about how the hair looks. When we are alive, we're just there and fully in the moment. And that's why I like aliveness as that coming together, or that point to start from.
Wow. This is the topic. This is how we're going to name the podcast, The Art of Aliveness. This is so powerful. And again, I feel like I'm in therapy here, or like kind of like a personal reflection moment, because just before the podcast, I was telling Bella, oh my gosh, I didn't put enough makeup. I look so white. She's just talking about this. I'm like, oh, but I feel alive, people. I feel alive. And with you here, it's easy to feel alive when you are present. So let's talk about aliveness for a moment, Bella, because it's an art. And even though, children feel it, how can people that have forgotten this aliveness recognize it and get back to it?
I believe that we are running from our pain. And I don't want this conversation to be not necessarily about shadow work, but it's true that as humans, we are trying to protect ourselves and save ourselves, because there is a cellular memory, and sometimes also memories and imprints from this lifetime where it hurt. And it's just normal. It's survival techniques or mechanism to not have to experience that again. And that is why many times we're shutting off things. We can shut off our life force, our sexuality. We can shut off different part of ourselves. And that's, I believe, where the aliveness goes out of the window. And sometimes the way back to turn it on, it is to look at these different parts that haven't been part of the equation. So whatever emotionally was there, whatever sexually was there, whatever mentally was there. So all these places where maybe we try to shut a door, we need to open them. And then when they can come back online, we can actually re-imprint, and we can create new resonances and even new tracks, because we're allowing new experiences in. So the worst thing is to hide away from your own life and try to use your mind to strategize so that you don't have to feel. Because control, we all that have tried it know it doesn't work. We can try forever to control, but it just, in this reality, control just doesn't work as a tool. Whatever we are here to meet, life is going to take us there. And that's kind of when we see it as, oh, karma, or this thing happened to me. So if we are a little bit more open to start to open, like me, you don't have to be completely cut off and on the floor. If I would have listened earlier, because my body was speaking to me, my emotion was speaking to me, and I was listening to a certain degree, but I wasn't able to interpret what I was supposed to do completely. So the more that we can have this intuition and inner listening, the more I believe that we can open little by little. And that's what's going to be asked of us forever. Like, nobody's done. We are all going, it spirals. So we open, and there is more spirals of embodiment, of awareness, of aliveness, and it never ends. And that's what's so amazing. And I think too that it's much more fun at a certain level of awareness. It's much more fun to evolve, because you actually can see when it becomes a little crispy, and you're like, oh, now I'm there again. Now I have to look at this thing. But you are able to move through it, knowing that it's challenging, it hurts a bit, but you know that on the other side there is so much freedom, there is so much space. Whatever it is that that you are identifying as growing, as being more of you. And that's, after a few times, you become way more open to saying yes to whatever is in front of you. And that, for me, is a tantric life. A tantric life is to say, I am open to facing whatever is in front of me, because not facing it is not really going to help me.
Okay, wow, Bella. I was in a wow, because all the questions that I had, you've been answering them like this, like one, two, the shadow, the integration, everything. And I love how you are integrating the body. I love how being open, how it's fun to evolve. I mean, that just one liner, we could dive deep into that. And even though it's going to be painful, again, going back into Zen practices, the Rinzai Zen way, they have a saying that I truly believe, and it's made more Roshi. In one of his books, he says, if you take your pain, right, any suffering or pain as training, eventually your suffering will disappear. And you are talking about the same premise, it's like, it's not going to be like a walk in the park, but evolution can be fun. I love that you brought this invitation and this quest to everyone here listening to the podcast. Now, let's talk a little bit about the gene keys and human design. I'm not going to go deep into that. I know those are very powerful tools. You are one, I believe, you're one of the best out there to express it, to share it. Very clear. It's just recently, Bella, I met Richard since many years ago, right? And it's only like practically 1 month ago that I was like, oh, I get it. Finally, I began to get, and just because Richard did this video about this, the time for joy, and then he was sharing these videos of the gene keys and sharing tea, and anything that includes tea for me, I'm like, I mean, it's like the tea has called my path. That's the only thing that really, really gets me into this aliveness mode, into next and next levels for me and others. So let's talk about a little bit about that. So you often talk about transmuting, and you were talking about it, the shadow patterns into gold, right? And you use the gene keys for this. How do the gene keys, or one of the tools, how do they relate to the transmutation of the shadow pattern? What part of the gene keys? What are the gene keys? And how through that tool we can transform the shadow into gold?
Yeah, so for me, it's very important to work with human design and gene keys together because they come from the same transmission. And that's something that was brought in about 35 years ago into this realm. And Richard studied with the human design founder Ra for a long time, and then he had his own way of mapping and of also, we could say, developing or evolving the system. So for me, they are two parts. When you look at human design, you're going to see the body graph. So you're going to see a snapshot of the body, and you're going to see where you have energy, where you are here to touch the world, is usually what I say consistently. And you're also going to see where you're going to filter the world. So there are going to be different themes that you're here to impact the world with, and different themes where you're here to become wise. For me, worthiness is one of them. I'm here to become wise about worthiness because it's not consistent in me. So I filter a lot of that. And then there are other things that I'm here to impact the world with, like partly like my voice and partly kind of my life force as well. So I love the human design because we can understand the body and also how we are interacting with other people. So we could take my body graph in human design, your body graph, we put them together, and we could see the interconnection of energy. We could see the challenges, we could see the potentials, and we could see like where it is kind of electromagnetic potential between us. So I love human design as that snapshot of how the energy moves and that it puts the body first. It says no decisions can be made from the mind. It's just going to make it more complex, and it's going to exhaust itself. So everything has to do with inner authority that comes from the body. And each one of us have a unique way to come back into our inner authority so that we can move through the world and make decisions based on the inside, not the mind. That is the whole premise of human design. And for me, that's extremely, extremely helpful because I see a lot of people are like decapitated, a lot of heads running around trying to, make decisions for their lives. And I don't believe that works. I have all these people, I don't see that it works. And myself, when I'm trying to do that, it doesn't work. So that's the human design. And for me, that is a very helpful system to say, let's put the body on the throne. Let's make the decisions from this vehicle that actually knows. And many of us, we could just take that. If I put some plates of food in front of you, you're going to feel which plate, what is it that you want to eat? And you're also going to feel a pullback, what you don't want to eat. So we have an inherent yes or no inside of us. And there are ways to finding that so that we can make decisions from a place of truth and not from a place of mind.
Wow. again, it may be because I'm just focusing right now on Zen and just to really dive into it. But there's a Zen saying that says you cannot wash blood with blood. It's the same thing as like the mind. How are you going to resolve it through the mind? The mind, we need to clear the mind. It's like you can't resolve the ailments of the mind with the mind. You cannot wash blood with blood. And this is so clear, Bella, that this is the first time I'm actually, and you do sessions of what do you do? How do you help people? Do you work with them one on one? How does that happen?
Yeah, so I do that. And at the same time, I feel like changing the world one person by one person by one person, it would be a very long process. So what I did with Ashley, my business partner, we created an academy so that people can learn, so that they can actually learn for themselves. So that's Unlock Your Design. And that's where they can learn, but also the weaving of human design and gene keys and astrology. So that kind of takes me to gene keys, which for me, it's exactly the same calculations. You're taking the same system, but instead of mapping it as a body and showing how the energy is moving in yourself and with you and the world, you're actually mapping it as a hero or heroine's journey. So it becomes the journey where you're able to see your challenges, your potentials, and it also comes with tools, we could say, for embodiment. And it's not supposed to be a mental theory that you're here to just understand. When we speak about contemplation, and I think that is misunderstood, because the main tool in the gene keys is to contemplate what we say the hologenetic profile, or this hero's journey. Contemplation is not just by the mind. Contemplation is physical, emotional, mind, and then spirit and soul coming in and saying, I remember this. I know what this means. It's actually a revelation and a remembering of what's already there. And for me, what's so powerful with the gene keys is that when you see some of those gifts, when you see some of those keywords that are there, you start to remember who you are, and you actually even start to remember the future, because the future is not, it's not, even in the future is already here. So there is a revelation that happens with the gene keys that sometimes for people feels actually even more powerful than the human design. The human design gives you clarity of who you are and how you move, and then the gene keys ignite things in you that you didn't even know were there. But then when they are turned on, you just feel them so fully, and you're able to anchor more deeply with that soul side. So really what the gene keys want to do, and human design too, but the gene keys want your personality and your soul to start to communicate and dance together. And that's why they also show you a lot of the what has been maybe unconscious, so that you can bring it together and so that you can start to live that journey. And the same thing we spoke about before, the gene keys, like you say, it's a spiral. So you are going to be able to, decondition and to become more you. And at the same time, it's a journey that never ends, because it also brings in, and that's kind of Zen, or those higher frequencies, like the non-duality, the oneness. I mean, we are not here to necessarily feel exactly like being one all the time, because we are also in individual bodies, but it brings in also the possibility of what we call the acidic frequencies, which is really the realm beyond what we are doing, running around in our own bodies and lives every day. And that's beautiful, because it creates a field of something higher, an aspiration, a vision of what's possible when human beings come, back into self-sovereignty, but also a kind of liberation and freedom that happens on a collective level.
Bella, I'm going to tell you something. I feel like the questions that I was going to ask you, you read them in the ethereal field, in the intelligent field, because you've answered one after one after one. I just have one more question. So thank you for that. This is, two questions, because I want to go through the cities right now a little bit. I think people need to know what the city is, because a lot of people know the cities from the Hindu culture, right? That's where it first. The term siddhi is a Sanskrit word, which means illumination, empowerment, or power of illumination, or the powers of being. There's so many definitions of siddhis, but just for the sake of the people listening, could you please explain what a siddhi is? Or just explain how it was so clear how the Gene Keys use that. This is the first time I understand that, actually. But tell people a little bit about their cities. Why are they important as tools for their own, not only personal contemplation, but enlightenment and illumination.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a disclaimer there, and maybe I'm seeing it a little bit different than the field in general in the gene keys, because I have over the years seen a kind of misunderstanding that we are supposed to become our cities, and that's kind of the goal. And I don't believe that. Like, I always speak about the human being as the animal body and instinct, the human heart, and then the creator mind, which is also where we are connecting to the subtle, but also, how spirit comes in and connects with soul and how we become that meeting point. So for me, when we speak about the cities, they are more of glimpses and like a perfume. And even maybe the cities is something that we give to the people around us. So whenever somebody has enough space inside of themselves because they work through all these parts where there can be a bit of friction where we don't want to go. So when we have enough space inside of us so that the heart can feel home, the soul can feel home, the spirit can breathe us, then actually in our aura, when we walk into a room, people can start to feel the encodement or the encoding that we have of some of these things. It's going to be unique. When one person walks into a room, you're going to feel maybe the city of unity. When another person walks in, you're going to feel the city of boundlessness. We all have like different uniqueness that can even come out in that very high frequency. However, you're going to do yourself a disservice if you are identifying with that. It's like, I have to be unity. I woke up this morning, I didn't feel like unity. That happens to be my life's work. Like, then I would make myself wrong, and I wouldn't recognize the wholeness of me. And that's why it's so important to understand that wherever you are in the gene keys, there's a frequency band. We have a shadow, we have a gift, and we have a city. For me, we're human. We're here on earth. The gift frequency is the human pathway. If you can anchor yourself in that word, that is the gift. So for in my case, it would be the city of unity and the gift of orientation. If I can ground into orientation so that I wake up in the morning, I don't tell myself, oh, I'm not unity, I feel fragmented, there's something's wrong with me. No, if I can wake up and I start to feel into my body, I start to orient. Okay, what do I want to do? Do I need some water? When I can orient here and now with what's there, that's also where I am able to live a life that is anchored here as a human being. And hopefully I'm going to be able to inspire the cities. So for me, the cities is something that come naturally. You can never try to attain them. And that's exactly the same with awakening. Go and try to attain it and see how it goes for you. Well, the cities are beyond one person. It's only a field of, it's the field of unity. So you can never attain it, but you may be able to experience it if you create enough space in yourself, enough kind of silence in yourself, so that you're able to hear it. Because all the dimensions are here all the time. The most dense, which is the body, to all the most subtle, the astral plane, like all the layers, all the dimensions are here. There's nowhere to go. There's no ascension. Like when we can bring in the cities in the here and now, well, actually ascension is happening. So that is my way of thinking of it and explaining it.
Oh, I love this. We're going to close this podcast with this because and just a couple of questions and details. But, when you are sharing, what I can feel is essence, the essence, because you describe it like a glimpse, like a perfume. And I could see, when the rose has its space, or when you give yourself the space to smell the rose, its fragrance, its gift, its essence, its city, is translated or transmuted into what we project as smell, right? And so we are able to translate this, what we call reality. We're able to translate into our limited understanding of our projective mind, our feelings, our encoded data that we have in our DNA. We're able to translate this into a more sublime, more subtle, and more directive pathway again, that and when we tap into this essence, I think we are more alive yet again. So wow, Bella, this you are such an incredible speaker, and so thoroughly you answer all the questions that I didn't have to ask. Just the one question that is more simple in a way, but you have a background as an entrepreneur and as a businesswoman. How how have you seen your understanding of the Jinkies and human design impact these areas, as well as how does this ties in leadership and in the leadership that we're required to embody more of in the world?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said in the very beginning, that I always wanted to do it my way. And that since I was very young, I did things my way. And in school, when I was maybe 7 to 10, the teachers were still quite happy for me to doing it my way. But then with age, you were supposed to do it a certain way. So I went through school having to do things the way they wanted to. And it partly made me sad because I felt like I had better ways. And I think that goes with the leadership and the patterns. Like there are patterns, there's ways we did things. But now the new generations, we're finding ways that are actually more constructive, that work better. And sometimes it feels like that's not welcome. And that goes back to what you said with the censoring as well. You know, like there's always some kind of authority that think it knows better. So for me, when it comes to my past, a lot of it was those projects that I wanted to do. So after high school, the day after, I moved to France. My dad didn't allow me to go and backpack in Asia or do anything completely crazy. But if I promised him I was going to go to university in France and he had to sign the papers for all that, like that was what he would allow me to do. And my first venture was to go to university for 6 months, and then I moved to Paris and I started a company there, and I was living between Puerto Rico and Paris, and I had to bring dancers from Puerto Rico to Paris. I had to do the whole visa process. I had to employ them for 2 years to show that I needed these dancers. I had to record a DVD to show that I couldn't take some dancers and choreographers in Paris or France that didn't have work. It was this whole thing, and I was never afraid of doing it. I was able to always find the way of doing it, and I think that it was a bit of a naivety as well. But I think that that is the spirit of the entrepreneur. It's that everything is possible if you have the passion. Everything is possible, and actually, sometimes you need a little bit of that naivety to have the courage to just go, because you think more about what's possible than what could fail. So for me, that is the way that I wanted to do things. And then, like I said, I thought I needed to go to business school. I think I needed to check these other things off. But that was way more what I felt from the outside than what I actually wanted to do. And I think, yeah, do you,
No, no, I'm just saying, okay, this is perfection. This is like you keep like nailing it, Bella. It's like I love this. I love this so much, and I love how you brought the spirit of naivete to the entrepreneurship, and that anything is possible. And as you speak, I have a motto. One of our core values is taking our faith into action. I think you embody that core value so beautiful. It's more than a core value. It's a way of living, actually, a way of living, of failing, of falling, of standing up, of figuring it out. But it's such a great message of hope, of active hope that has created results for people that are in the trenches of should I or should I not. A little bit of naivete, a little bit of your essence, a little bit of direction can take you a long way. Wow. Bella, give us a little bit, just tell us where can people reach out to you. We are going to share your academy, your social media, websites, but where will be the first step for people that are listening to start in this journey with you?
I think it could, well, I want to say one more thing about leadership, because I feel like it's important that we might have we might have a view of what leadership should look like. And maybe in the old world, it did look in a certain way. But the way that the world is evolving and everything is changing, we are going to need many different kinds of leadership. And everybody has a unique leadership, even if it's maybe just a self leadership. You're somebody who can really lead yourself, and that is living fully for you. We need these people too. So I think when it comes to leadership, there is something new that's happening. The kind of leadership that was the leader on the podium that just speaks and then goes home and we don't know what he or she's doing, that is not how we are going to be able to navigate in this world forward. And there are going to be so many things that fall in our head. So something that is going to be a leadership quality that's important is to be able to actually respond in the moment to what's there. And the more that we can try to start doing that in our lives, because it starts here and now, the more we're going to be able to meet the needs of what society is going to ask from us. And that's what I heard you do in the beginning of this call. You came in and you were still in that thought process of a solution because there was a censoring, and now there is already next steps taking place inside, and then the actions being done. And that is leadership. And we all have that ability. When something's happened, are you hiding away, or are you leaning in, feeling what's there, and then allowing a solution to come through you? That for me is leadership. I think we all have that ability in one or another way. So that's where I want to bring leadership as something that we're all capable of. And then, of course, there are going to be, facilitation where some people are more able to guide others. And that's in what we call in the Gene Keys, the synergy. The synergy of people becomes a synergy, a kind of geometry where people find their place, where my genius in a group is going to be used in the best possible way, your genius. And I think that that's the way that we want to start to come together in groups where we're able to see each unique being and recognize what leadership piece is this person bringing to this synergy, this geometry of human beings.
Wow. Bella, I vote for you. I really recommend all my friends that have corporations. This is where my heart is going right now, to bring more. Well, and I'm line 5 or 51, Jinky, whatever. So apparently, no matter how small we try to do things, they always expand. I love that. But I really encourage my friends that are listening, that are corporations and everything, talk to Bella. I really, when you were speaking, I was envisioning, oh my gosh, all of these tools, all of these maps for corporations and for the future and for the evolution that is happening now. This just feels so right in my bones, in my blood, in my every single aspect of my being. So Bella, this was phenomenal. Thank you so much. So now tell us, where can people find you? Where will be the first step for people to reach out to you? And again, we will put all the links, all the things, because we want people to be able to reach out to you and get the juice of this and get to work.
Yeah, so the website, Unlock Your Design. And then if you want to speak with me personally, you can write a message on Facebook.
You're so amazing, so awesome. Bella, beloved, thank you. I think the last thing that you shared about leadership was the blessing. I always ask, unless you have a different blessing that you want everybody, a different call to action that you would like to share, let's do that. Do you have any blessing for the community? Remember, we are reaching people in Latin America that speak English. And now, apparently, our podcast has been growing little by little, one podcast at a time, but in another scale. And so there's more people in different countries. So any blessing or any call to action that you have for them just to close this episode?
Yeah, so going back to everything we spoke about, let your aliveness lead you, because that is the true leader of your path in your life.
Wow. Amen. Ashe, in Lakesh, all of the good things. Thank you. Thank you. Let your aliveness lead you guys. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, beloved Bella. Gracias a todos los que nos escucharon hoy. Please, please, please give it a like, subscribe, follow. Remember, we're a self-sponsored podcast. We do that so we don't bring commercials. So you get our guests fully for them. So we're self-sponsored. So it helps us if you share us, if you subscribe, if you like YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, whatever your preferred podcast platform is. And we are striving to become better and better each time. We're evolving slowly but surely. But, let us all be alive. Thank you so much. Un besito. Adios.
Gracias.
We hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Make sure to check the links to everything we mentioned in this episode. For more news, future or past episodes, or for any other inquiry, please visit our website at delaflorteachings.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast.